While the president was talking, the markets bounced back today after their worst day since the Black Monday crash of 1987. The Dow today closing up nearly, 1,985 points. MSNBC's David Gura joins us now from the New York Stock Exchange. David, stocks really picked up steam today. They were up some 900 points before the president started talking, and then they really headed off to the races into the close. What was going on there today as we headed towards 4 o'clock?
Yeah, shot up at the beginning after this interview that Steve Mnuchin gave to CNBC. The comments that he made to reporters after that went down a bit as there was this back and forth between the White House and Congress about this fiscal package that kind of faded to the background there as that news conference got underway. And then as soon as the president started speaking, I'm going to describe what happened here. It got pretty quiet on the floor. You could hear the speech. It was pumped up loud through the speakers, and people were taking notice. People were listening. People were watching what Stephanie Ruhle described just a moment ago. All of those executives from corporate America, they're arrayed around the president of the United States, talking about this crisis and the president's new plan to deal with it. And there was some exuberance associated with that. We kind of made up all of the losses that we saw yesterday in the Dow, nearly did, I should say. Had an incredible rise in terms of the Dow. And so they reacted positively. Investors reacted positively to what the president had to say. I should say the timing of this was curious. Happening here at the end of the day, the president started his comments about half an hour late. We expected them to start at 3 o'clock Eastern time. He started at 3:30, so this was timed very well to coordinate with the end of the trading day, and that exuberance certainly carried over to the closing bell.
David, I want to ask you a question about something we saw today from the New York Fed, saying that it'll start buying all sorts of treasuries, starting with 30-year bonds. Did that have an impact on the markets at all today?
So we first got word of this yesterday, and it did have a positive stock market reaction as soon as we heard that from the New York Fed. And then the stock market went down once again, and we saw the incredible losses that we did yesterday. What we heard from the New York Fed today was that those auctions were going to be accelerated. So you have monetary policy trying to do as much as monetary policy can. I will say it was really astonishing to listen to the president today and hear how little he spoke about what was going on Capitol Hill. He had to be prompted by a reporter to comment on that fiscal package. And you'll remember earlier today, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi came out around 2 o'clock Eastern time to deliver a statement about the bill that she and her colleagues had put together. At the end of that, it was very much an open question. Did the White House support that fiscal package? Didn't get a clear answer from her, from the House Speaker. Didn't get a clear answer from the White House as well. And we understand there was another phone call between the Treasury Secretary and the House Speaker after that. Again, a reporter had to ask the president if he supported that House bill, and he said no. There's too much in it that they want that we don't, meaning too much that the Democrats want that the White House doesn't. And in that news conference, which lasted longer than an hour, again, I was struck by how little the president talked about that safety net package, that fiscal package that was being bandied about, discussed so much on Capitol Hill today and in the week before.
David, an interesting thing today, we saw the markets regain almost all of their losses from yesterday, which was the worst day we had seen since the big crash back in 1987. I'm looking at some traders and some folks still milling about behind you. And I think a lot of people are wondering, OK, if this coronavirus situation gets worse, if those traders are no longer able to go to the stock exchange floor, for example, if they have to shut things down, then what happens to the markets? Do we have any sense of sort of what the plan is there going forward?
Alison, I'm so glad that you asked about this, and I know that you've been down here. You know the way this floor works and how this floor has evolved. I'll say over the course of the last week, things have changed a lot here in terms of the protocols that we have to go through, who's allowed on the floor, who's allowed to ring the opening bell. All of that has been reduced as we've seen hand sanitizer stations crop up around the floor of the stock exchange. There has been a very vibrant debate here about whether or not this floor stays open in light of what we've seen over the last couple of days. Broadway shutting down, sports tournaments being canceled, schools being closed for the rest of the semester. And what traders here will say is there is still business that has to be done in this physical location. Yes, a lot of the work can be done virtually, but there are these auctions and deal making that happen after that closing bell. And indeed, while the president was speaking, I wish you could have seen, but arrayed around me here were 30 or 40 traders who are still hammering out deals at the close of the day. Their concern is that if this were to go entirely virtual, that couldn't happen. That work of this marketplace couldn't happen. And what's brought this conversation up anew is certainly the coronavirus, but also what we've seen in Chicago this week with the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. It did close its doors because of coronavirus. So that conversation is still very much alive. The head of the exchange speaking to reporters earlier this week saying there's a contingency plan in place. They're going to be monitoring this. But what we've heard from leaders here at the exchange and what we've heard from the mayor of the city, Bill de Blasio, is it is his goal to keep this exchange open, that people rely on it. It's part of the pedigree of the financial markets. The goal is to keep the market open so long as they can.
David Gura at the New York Stock Exchange. You have been bringing us the very latest there throughout the week. Finally, a little bit of good news today. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes. Thanks, Allison.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.